Hey, yo, what's up? This is Disciple Marcello Kearns Rain back up in this anti-Illuminati all day, anti-America all day. Yeah, so this message is going to be about America doesn't allow progression of thrones because their worship of kings and queens. America does not allow the progression of thrones because of their worship of established so-called kings and queens. Basically, the rulers, the leaders of your community, whether they be in entertainment, whether they be uh, in different fields, even in the police force, even any area of your society that you can think about, they have who they feel is king or queen, and they will not allow someone. Hear this closely. In America, they will not allow people to be higher than who they have esteemed as king and queens. And hear this last part, whom they want to worship. These are the people they worship. Now, sometimes, most of the times, non-spiritual people do not know when they're worshiping someone. They don't know when they're worshiping someone. They don't know. They don't realize it. You are worshiping when you trample on what is good and right for these people. You are trampling on, you are worshiping them when you put them in an abnormal space and spot that a human being doesn't belong to be in. Hey, they're humans at the end of the day, just like everybody else. And when you put them in abnormal positions, you are worshiping. That's what you're doing. It's not their fault. It's your fault. Well, they didn't make you worship them, did they? That's a 7 hour. Yeah, for all the people that want to blame the celebrities and people, these celebrities didn't make you worship them. Beyonce didn't make you worship her, did she? That's a 7 hour. Did Beyonce make these people worship them? These black people, these black women worship her? That ain't her fault. At the end of the day, it really ain't. Okay, she may say certain things that insinuate being a queen and things like that, and things that's just too high, like using, which I heard, using Bible paper for during her ministration. Now, come on, that's going a little far, okay? But at the end of the day, she still, even with that being said, she still hasn't made you worship her. You choose to worship who you choose to worship. It's your fault that there are people that you have placed on thrones and are worshiping that has stopped the progression of the thrones in your community. The reason why there's nobody better than all these rappers and singers is because you have chosen to place the kings and queens as these ones that you've chosen. You chose that. You also have chosen that no one will be above them. I would even suspect there's no more Tupacs and Biggies because you used your politics to say it ain't gonna be nobody else like that. Boom. You use your culture to say it ain't gonna be nobody else like that. How dare them? That's the progression of thrones that naturally happen in society. It's natural. Everybody's always talking about what's natural. You know what's natural? The progression of thrones, the progression of power. You can't have the throne forever. No one can. The throne does not last forever. There has to be a progression of leaders, okay? In your politics, what you do, especially in the music industry, you don't allow someone to be greater than these singers and rappers because you've already feel that they already are who you choose to worship. You selected them as your objects of worship as your true American idol. You've already chosen them to be that. Therefore, hear this part. They use the politics street politics, regular politics among the community, and even government politics to in culture to stop anyone from getting above those who they worship. And so what happens is everything comes out of whack in the spiritual world and in the natural world because there is no progression. You know what the definition of retardation is? I've been telling you your culture is retarded. You know what the real definition of retardation is? Retardation is something that does not progress. That's a 7 hour. Yeah. Retardation is something that does not progress. If you hold certain people on the throne, when you do that, you stop progression by putting certain people on thrones forever. And in worship, you have now stopped progression, and that's why your community looks non-progressive, and some would say retarded. Some would say it's a form of retardation by definition. Not by being cruel like you are, not by that. No, we got you on the real definition of retardation. That's a 7 hour. Well, your community, your government is not progressing. Now, are they? Okay, so where's the progression in the in your culture, in your community, and in your government? Where's the progression? So that's a form of retardation, buddy, whether you like it or not, by definition. And what happens is when you have a throne that and you have someone on the throne that you refuse to let them move, and you manipulate politics, especially in the music industry, you manipulate politics and you manipulate situations and you manipulate through the culture, you have now become retarded, which explains why the people you have on the throne are out of touch. Do they seem like they're in touch right now with your community? Because they're supposed to been moved on. Their time has been up. But you couldn't let them go. You're notorious for that. You don't know how to let people go because you're such a fan of people. You go into worship. Now, there's no progression of your thrones. And now you have a retarded community with a retarded culture that is non-progressive. That's the factuality of them being retarded. See, it's deeper. See, I know you like to be a fan of this person, and I know you like to be a fan of that person. But just like you had to let Michael Jackson go when rap came. You know, Michael Jackson couldn't stay on top. When rap came, it was over. We didn't say that. We didn't. No one really says that. But you should make a documentary about it. Because whether Michael Jackson messed with the children or not, he still would have not remained the king of pop, of art of popular culture, with rap right on his heels. He couldn't have remained. Even if he had a flawless background where there was nothing questionable with the children and all of that, he still couldn't remain the king because of progression, natural progression. When hip hop came, that was natural progression. Nobody was trying to beat Michael Jackson in studio like, how we beat him? We're gonna make up rap. That's gonna beat Michael Jackson. We gotta beat him. How we gonna beat him? We're gonna make some tough guy rap, which we know he ain't tough. We're gonna make some tough guy music, and it's gonna beat Michael Jackson. It just happened naturally. And Michael Jackson tried to incorporate rap, but it wasn't believable. You know what I'm saying? He made a song with Biggie Smalls, but why many of you don't know, because it's not really believable. Not ain't Biggie's fault. It's Michael Jackson's fault. It's not believable. So The thing is this, man, is Michael he's a perfect example. He's the excellent example as far as the music industry. The throne, his time on the throne, the time of his throne time, if you will, had passed. Rap was there. Rap came in the mid to late 80s. And Michael was into, he had just made Thriller at the top of the 80s. And rap was right on him. And all the kids were starting to shift from Michael into rap. And he never expressed this, but I'm sure it's being competitive, I'm sure he took time talking about it. He took time to make songs with rap in it. All it was, I'm not saying he probably wasn't a fan of rap, but he had to merge the worlds. He had to attempt to, in order to keep the audience. But it shows you right there, he was already losing the natural progression of thrones was already taking place, and Michael Jackson was losing his grip on his throne. And ultimately, when the 90s came, that was it for Michael Jackson. I mean, everybody still respected him, but the kids wasn't going out going to Michael Jackson concerts. Not the kids, the older people was. The 30-somethings was, maybe the late 20s was. But, the kids wasn't really cared about Michael Jackson. I didn't care about Michael Jackson. I was a kid. I was a teenager in the 90s. And once rap came along, we didn't care about Michael Jackson really like that. We respected him, but we still thought he was somewhat cool, but he wasn't cooler than rappers. And that's a perfect example, an excellent example of how, no matter how much, if the throne has to be passed, it's going to be passed. It's going to happen. And no matter how much people like Michael Jackson, the throne did not progress. His throne did not progress past rap. It was a natural progression. These days, rap has no end. But you still have to pass the throne when it comes to the progression of rap. Now you got drill, everybody's into that, and trap. Trap is still around to a certain degree, but drill is what everybody's into. So even with that, with rap, you can't have rappers that are out of touch with drill, trying to make relevant music. You may not agree with it, but if you're gonna stay on the throne, you have to incorporate that in order to really remain relevant, some would say. But even with that being said, the natural progression is going to make you lose your grip on the throne. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Because it's a natural progression of community and society. That's what it is. And now these days, people, whether it's politics, whether it's whatever it is, people these days have their people that try to manipulate through politics and manipulate through culture to preserve a throne that naturally isn't meant to last forever. It's not meant to last forever because you have to be down here where we are. You have to be down here where we are in order to progress the community. And if you're not progressing the community, you are irrelevant. If you're on the throne for a certain amount of time, whether you like it or not, you're out of touch with the soil of the community. You're out of touch with the soil of the community. You can only understand what's going on now through word of mouth. You're no longer down here where we are. If you're billionaires and millionaires, no disrespect, but you're not down here where we are. So the only way you really know is you come down here and visit. or you come, but you go back home to a mansion at the end of the night. So you really don't have that 24/7 experience to understand the vibrations and understand what's going on. Therefore, if we keep it like that, the whole world stays out of touch. It's a 7th hour. But somebody like me come and I can talk about gang stalking, and I can talk about these secret societies, and I can talk about these Freemason police doing Freemason police operations. Then now people understand that. They can relate to that because they understand it. They know what's going on for real. But all these rappers and singers and actresses and everything in between, you looking at it, you looking at the world, you looking at the environment like what is real and what is not real. You know why you're doing that? Because you're not down here with us no more. And you're still on the throne getting worshipped. And nobody will let the throne progress naturally so that the community can progress as it naturally should. So therefore, that's why there is no help for the everyday man. That's why he has no messengers. He has no messengers because no one is allowing natural progression through politics and through the culture. Through people saying, well, no, nobody can be better than this person. It ain't about being better. It's about progression. Nobody can be better than him or her. We ain't talking about that. We're talking about progression. And if they don't have progression, then you lose. Okay? Why you losing then? You know why you're losing? Because you have nobody to progress you. You have no messengers to progress you. You going through weird stuff in your American community. And you don't even know what name to put on it. And I can tell you exactly what it is. I can tell you who exactly it is. It's these secret society people and the police and the American government letting them go out as their hound dogs. They're using the Illuminati, the Freemasons, and portions of the black community for money to oppress you. And look, it's very fitting for 2023. You're not in 2005. A lot of stuff has changed. So you should think about that. Yeah, some stuff has changed. Well, yeah. And that's one of these things that has changed. They're using secret societies. They've given secret societies a facelift, and now they have hip hop and black people all in it. They have Hispanics and Latinos. This group, these secret societies began to recruit because they all started out white. Oh, they started out with black people? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. All of them, including the Freemasons, they started out white. And then they began to network and get black people, which is corny to me. It's corny to me. You begin to recruit into something. Africans are not naturally even in no foolishness like that. Not in the design that you have. Not in the design that you got going on. No, black people not naturally even in nothing like that. That's why they're acting crazy in that group. Boom. It's not culturally sound for you to do that. No, it ain't. That's why you're weirdos. That's why you're doing weird stuff. You're way out of character as black people. That's why you lost your identity when you joined them. Oh, you can still say you're black, but you lost your identity among us. Look at the stuff you're doing. You ain't black no more. If you was, you ain't now. If you in a secret society gang stalking, you ain't black no more, buddy. You with the white folks. You with the crazy white folks now. And listen, I ain't against all white people. Those are racist white people that have learned lynch sciences, if you will. White racist master sciences. That's all this is. Using the same refried tactics to oppress non-white people. Now they're at the point where they're using black people to camouflage themselves. They're using Hispanics and Latinos to camouflage themselves. And I still know it's the white man. Boom. I still know it's you because it's not in the culture of the Africans or the Hispanics and Latinos. So it ain't nothing but you. You ain't fooling me. It could be a man black as Kunta Kinte. And I still know you are working for the white racist people. I go by your movements. I go by your vibration. That's what I go by. See, so that's an example of how my information is progressive. Now go try to get this out of some of these people on top. Look, they don't even want to progress. Many of them don't even want to progress because there's other people that's stopping them from progressing because it's against their progression. Their progression is that you're all captive and oppressed. And so those who are on the throne can literally hold back progression as a result of those who want you to stay oppressed. So not only should their throne naturally go away, which because they can't progress you anymore, not only does that is the only method of stopping progression, they're stopping progression also by literally holding back information for you to progress. That's what they're doing. That's why your community is not progressing. Because as long as they can lock you up, you know how many people get locked up off of, you know how many people get food off of one charge of an African American locked up? The lawyer eats, the judge, he or she has a job, the correctional officers have a job. You know how many people are fed just because you're doing crimes? You ever thought about that? So you don't think nobody see that as a hustle? I got to do a video about that. So everybody's pure in their motives. And this country has never been pure in their motives. Everybody see the prison system and the jail system and all the legal system and all that, the court systems. Everybody see that as they're just pure and radiant as the sunshine and rainbows. They have pure motives as radiant as the rainbows and sunshine. Nobody's looking at that as a hustle. Nobody's trying to capitalize off of that. You must be one of the most simplest countries I've ever seen, the simple-minded countries I've ever seen in my life. Of course, they're using crime as a means to feed lawyers, court systems, and correctional officers. They're getting fed. Police get fed off of you. If you wasn't doing no crimes, all their jobs wouldn't be necessary. There might be some police, but not this many. Your crime makes them necessary. You realize that, right? If you were good people, they wouldn't be necessary. That's a 7 hour. If you was a good community, what would be the use of police? They would be useless if you were good people. So all these people eat off of one crime. You don't think they're looking at that as a hustle? Okay, if this many people do this many crimes, then you got this. We can employ this many people doing this. We can employ these police. We can employ these lawyers. We can employ these judges and court system. We can employ all these people. But the catch is they have to do crime. So guess what that means? They now pull your society into a mind to do crime through the culture and through all of this rap stuff. All of that benefits the crime system, which therefore keeps the black man incarcerated. Therefore, it keeps the black man enslaved. See the plan? Boom. Ow. That's a 7. The whole plan is to keep you enslaved. So how we got to do it? We got to keep crime, because crime is going to put him in prison. Therefore, he has no life. Therefore, he is nothing. I know you don't think like this. Your white friends don't think like this, but it's still some racist people out there that do. Once you get it through your head, all white people don't love you. Still today in 2023. And you think about it, but you don't think about those in power that's been manipulating things to incarcerate you and to oppress you. They're still doing it. And they're using the culture, and you just as stupid as can be. They're using the culture and everything to incarcerate you, to take your freedom. And they're getting paid at the same time. If that ain't pimping, I don't know what is. Incarcerating your community, your men and your women, and getting paid at the same time. This is what's happening in your community. This is what's happening. And listen, it's another example of how the throne that is up there now, they're not progressing you. They can't tell you nothing. They ain't telling you nothing, are they? They ain't telling you nothing that's going on, are they? It makes you wonder, right? They don't know about 44 states with child marriage, do they? Anybody in your community progressing that information like I am? I'm progressing that information. Anybody else progressing that information? Huh? Your children know right now they can be married. All the little teenagers that you think you protected. Won't you tell them the truth that they can be in a child marriage here in America? That's a 7. Won't you tell them the truth that they could be a hubby at 16 or 17? Won't you tell them girls the truth that they can be a wifey at 15 or 16 or 17? Won't you tell them the truth about that? Won't you be progressive? Yeah, you know who's doing that? Me. That's who's doing it. And I'm going to get my respect, whether you want to give it to me or not. God is going to make sure I get it, because God is the all-smart being of all of us. And you don't think he realized that I know this, I'm speaking this, and I have pure motives for revealing this about your country? Listen, really, I have justice motive for revealing this. You don't think God see that? I want your country brought to justice. I want it defeated. You don't think he see that? And none of y'all ain't talking about it. Ain't none of y'all saying nothing about it. You don't think God sees that? Oh, you can say you know, but you ain't doing nothing with what you know. Yeah, so it ain't good enough to just know something. You ain't doing nothing with it. That takes everybody out. Well, I knew that. Well, what you doing with it then? You ain't doing nothing with it. And for people to think I'm tripping, talk about I'm in the same category as Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr., well, I'm revealing something to you that you don't know. They ain't tell you this. And they have room to be able to tell you this because the age of consent has never been at 18 in the United States of America, in all states. So Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. could have been talking about this too. That's a 7, Al. Oh, you didn't know that, did you? Well, the age of consent has never been at 18 years old in all of the states of America, even back in the 1960s. They could have told you about it too, but they didn't, did they? And you had the world record in the state of Delaware in 1880 at 7 years old. The American government had made a law for the state of Delaware in in the year 1880, to have sex with 7-year-old girls. Malcolm X could have told you that. Martin Luther King Jr. could have told you that. You can't you can't talk like as if they could have been, the way you make it seem as if they were one-track minded. Why they couldn't talk about that? You talk about politics and you talk about that too. In fact, some would say that would go hand in hand with the politics being in the law. And like I told you before, Malcolm X was talking about the Nation of Islam's leaders impregnating girls. Everybody know that, to know the history. Malcolm X was outing these Islamic leaders in America for impregnating girls, right? So in him being a leader that talked also about the American government and their laws, how come while he was talking about what the Nation of Islam was doing, how come he didn't reach over and get the information about the age of consent at 18, under 18, all throughout America? All throughout America, the age of consent was under 18 when Malcolm X was talking about the Nation of Islam impregnating girls. Why? And if he couldn't get that information for whatever reason, how come he ain't talk about the world record where the American government would have sent out a law for men to have sex with 7-year-old girls? How come Malcolm X didn't talk about that while he was talking about what the Nation of Islam is doing? That's what I'm trying to show you, man. That's what I'm trying to show you. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't touch it at all. He ain't say nothing about none of it. Impregnating nobody. Or the girls or any of that. Impregnating girls, Malcolm, I ain't hear MLK talk about none of the such. We do see that Malcolm X did have some type of integrity and character about concerning having sex with little girls. But he didn't talk about the main adversary who he had been talking about the whole time on the matter. He didn't talk about what the American government, his greatest adversary, was doing with children. They already had the record, the world record, by the way. I'm not talking about the present day lowest age of consent. Don't mix the two up. Somebody has the lowest age of consent lower than America. But America has the lowest. America has child marriage, which a lot of countries don't have, and they still hold the world record. Do you understand the difference between the world record and the present lowest age of consent? Don't be silly now. They're not one and the same. You have a world record, which could be at any year or any time, of the lowest age of consent passed by government. That's one thing. That's one record. Then you have the present lowest age of consent somewhere. America has the world record. Malcolm X could have talked about that, but he didn't, did he? Well, if I was talking about the Nation of Islam, and I'm already talking about America, if I was Malcolm X talking about the Nation of Islam's leaders impregnating teenage girls, right? And I'm already talking about what the American government is doing and what they're not doing. In my studies in that season and time, wouldn't the next thought to be go see what they're doing? It's a mystery, isn't it? Why he didn't do that? Especially him. MLK kind of never talked about the impregnating of little girls and sex with the little girls. I never heard him talk about nothing like that at all. Malcolm X is different. Malcolm X was talking about the Nation of Islam's leaders impregnating girls. He talked about the matter. He talked about it as if it was an injustice. He went before the world and talked about it. But yet he ain't say nothing about what the American government is doing the whole time. Or the world record that they held, which was from the year 1880, which that had to be out there. The information had to be out there. The year 1880, and he's in the 1900s. The information was there, bro. But yet you didn't hear him say nothing about that. You heard him talk about the Nation of Islam, but you didn't hear him talk about the American government. And you telling me I'm not, you telling me I'm not that same caliber. You telling me I'm not cut from that cloth. Now I know you can't believe it, can you? It's unbelievable to you, ain't you? Well, you in unbelief. That's your problem. It ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Listen, man, you should know that somebody will be greater than them. Can we admit that? So nobody ain't gonna be greater than Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. So if I talk to you about the natural progression of humanity, would you understand, yes or no, that it's natural for us to progress, meaning we get more greater people as time goes by? As time goes by, we're going to get greater people. That's what God should be making, right? It's greater people than the past, right? That makes sense. We need more greater people as time progresses, right? Not people that's, well, they know better than Malcolm X. They're no better than Martin Luther King Jr. That is not even natural progression. You can't even prove that scientifically when we have progressed beyond their world. I don't live in the same world as Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. I'm automatically greater as a result. I'm automatically greater. But the fact that I'm in a whole different world than they was, with different technology, different culture, and different informations. Just on that alone. Besides my predestined position in your community. If I was born in 1981, that was way after they were dead. So that means that, why would God breathe the same caliber of them in me? Now that they dead, okay, we got to do something. We got to have more. Not the same kind of person. And all it proves is you've already made up your mind who you are going to worship. You want to worship Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. as your greatest leaders of all time. Therefore, you manipulate politics going around saying nobody can compare themselves to Martin Luther King Jr. That's you dabbling with politics right there. That's what I'm talking about. You going around talking about ain't nobody better than Martin Luther King Jr. Malcolm X. How dare he compare himself? Well, I compared the facts. That's what I did. I didn't compare the names. I compared the facts. Malcolm X talked about the Nation of Islam impregnating girls, but yet he's an adversary of the American government. We can all say that for facts. But yet he ain't talk about nothing about their ages of consent and nothing they did with children. Some would say he talked about what black people did with children, but didn't talk about what these white folks did with children. See, I'm the progression. Don't you get it? That's what some people will say. Well, he talking about what these black folks in the Nation of Islam did with children, but he sure didn't talk about what these white folks are doing with children in the government. And you telling me I'm not a progressive caliber beyond Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X? Well, I'm talking progressively. I am talking progressively. I'm talking on the issue that Malcolm X never talked about. The American government and children. He didn't talk about it, did he? Did Martin Luther King Jr. talk about it? Then I'm more progressive already. Don't you see that? But you have in your mind, like I said, and that's what this video is all about. You have in your mind already who you have chosen to make your greatest, who you have chosen to make your type of gods or your idols. And your politics and culture will not allow anyone else, even if it's supposed to be, even if the information and facts are there, like in my situation, you still will try to manipulate politics and culture to stop that person from proceeding past who you have chosen to worship as your greatest leaders. It is, and it's not the fault of the leaders, it's your fault. You build shrines around Malcolm X. You build shrines around Martin Luther King Jr. That's what it's your fault. Your American culture is more inclined to build shrines around anybody they consider great. You're more inclined to do that than any other society. Let's look at the facts. You're more of a mammoth of entertainment than any other country. No other country has more entertainment than you do they? You're more of a mammoth of entertainment than anybody. Okay? So it's safe to say, you have a whole bunch of superstars over the decades and over the years. And guess what you've done with all those superstars? Because you're such a mammoth of entertainment. You have worshiped these people by putting them in abnormal places, putting them above what is right and wrong, and manipulating politics so there is no progression beyond these people who you've chosen to worship. Anybody else telling you this? Oh yeah, I'm gonna point that out. I want you to know who I am. God wants you to know who I am. Why you have all these Christians that sit back and say, well, to God be the glory. And I agree with that 100%. I agree with it probably more than you do. But see, what you do is you forget about the scripture that says, let other men praise you and not your own mouth. The Bible says that. The Bible says, let other men praise you, which means there's room for praising men, not worshiping them like you do in your community. It's room to praise them, and you're not doing that because you have this synthetic, unrealistic humility where you think that everybody is nothing. But God is everything. And there's nothing wrong. God is, hear my definition and my interpretation clearly. God is everything, but he has made his people, he has also, in addition to God being everything, he has made his people significant. Oh, so God is everything, but his people are insignificant. That's a 7 hour. Yeah, and you don't want to point out that significance because you got to admit within yourself you don't know how to balance between who to worship. Ooh, you don't listen. You don't know who to worship. You don't know the difference between worship and praise. You think it's one and the same. That's not God's fault. The Bible says, "Let other men praise you and not your own mouth." You know what happens when you have to praise? You have to praise yourself. That means your society is not acknowledging the greatness of a person, and they got to point it out. Or God is going to send somebody else to point it out. Or God is going to have them to speak to point it out. Or God is going to have them, this is for sure, he's going to have them speak as to point it out. Ooh, that's a 7. And it ain't going to be other men's mouth. Now God is going to use that person's mouth to speak for themselves, in other words. Now you see what I'm saying. God is going to use their mouth to speak for themselves as far as who they are, because your culture and country has refused, with the Christians being first, to give proper praise and give honor when honor is due. So now this person got to stand up for themselves and say, hey, well, look, this is my position. This is who God has made me to be. And you think it's just as arrogant. You think it confirms the men praising themselves, and it doesn't. Your culture is out of whack and out of control. So now the man of God has to speak, in my particular situation, as to speak of who he is. And you think it's self-worship, and you think it's me lifting myself up. It ain't me lifting myself up. Your culture and country is out of whack. If you find somebody, you worship everybody else, but you worship everybody else, and you praise everybody else, but the people of God. You don't praise the people of God. Because see, when we get in these Christian arenas, you have all those who say, well, to God, all be the glory. But the scripture does still say, let other men praise you. See, now I'm showing you, and it's good that we come to this point, because now I'm showing you the difference between worship and praise when it comes in the perfect example is God and his people. You worship God, but you praise his people. That's a 7 out. Oh, yeah, you see, but you think an American Christian is going to do that? Do you think an American Christian is going to praise the people of God? No, they ain't going to do it. And so therefore, guess what? Because of that, there's no signification of the greatness of the people that's coming up, that's about to ascend to the throne. We can't do it because the first people in line, the chain of command that should be doing it, they're not doing it. The Christians are not saying, see, that's the one. This man is so great. This man is this, that, and the third. You're not doing that because you have this syndrome where you can't understand worshiping, the difference between worship and praise. You say, can't God get some? God is gonna get all worship. We not talking. I ain't never taken worship. He can get all of that. A matter of fact, but you are ignorant of praise. Ooh, boy, that's good. I could run around this whole apartment for that. You are ignorant of praise. And praise is designed for when it's given to a man or a woman of God to lift them up and establish them in their predestined position. So they can get all these bozos out the way. The praise pushed the bozos out the way. But it ain't coming, so guess what? The bozo's still on the throne. People that don't even make no sense ain't even helping you. Look at it for what it is. Besides all these entertainment elements, people that aren't even helping you. They got money, you don't. You call them king and queens, but they ain't progressing your community. That's the bottom line. They're not progressing your community. But yet you call them kings and queens. Boy, you selling yourself cheap these days. You American citizens are making these guys work for nothing. They get titles, money. You give them money, everything. They ain't working for none of that. Well, look at your community. They got billions of dollars and they can't give you $1 million to help your community. They can't, all these billionaires and millionaires can't pull money together. They always talking about how much money they got. They can't pull it together and do something for you. Oh, I know they built a recreation center. That's good enough for you, ain't it? That's a 7 hour. Oh, they built a basketball court and that's good enough for you with their name on it, therefore promoting them even more. Yeah, you don't understand business. They just promoted themselves even more, putting their name on the building. Man, come on, man. Stop playing with me, man. And like I told you, all that little stuff they doing still does not compare to billionaire status and influence in America. Oh, okay, they built a school. They built a recreation center. Does that compare to a billionaire? What a billionaire can do? You buying all their stuff and they can't do nothing for you hardly? They act like, see, God made the world where no man really can boast. How can they boast? You made them rich. Oh, they went and got the money themselves? That's called robbing a bank. That's a 7 hour. That's called robbing a bank when you make yourself rich. That's called robbing a bank if you make yourself rich. How you make yourself rich? If you would listen to them, you would think they did it. They went and got the money on their own. Like literally, like went and got it and they got it and this is my money. Well, you had to buy their music. You had to support all the stuff they're doing, but they defecating on you like you ain't nothing. You made them rich. And if you didn't go take the money from a country or a bank, you cannot act like you made yourself rich. You can't even act like a made man. Like a self-made man. You can't act like that. You can't say you self-made if they made you rich. I know it's all part of a show that you've been conditioned to believe in. You let these entertainers ride around in Bentleys and Rolls Royces and all type of other cars and Bugattis and all of these different things and Lamborghinis and Ferraris acting like they made something on their own. How they make something on their own when you the one paid for the tickets and went to their concerts? It's part of the packaging. That's what you got to understand. It's part of the packaging of these artists, actors, and everything in between. They're packaged as if they're a fat cat. I know y'all hate it. Listen, you hate it or you love it. It's one or the other. They're packaged as a fat cat. Look at me. I'm the fat cat boss. And that's not picking on any particular person. It's just too many. And you look at them like, yeah, that's the life. Your community the one made them like that. Hey, well, how they make themselves rich? Explain that to me. Unless they robbed the bank, how did they make themselves rich? Now, if you robbed the bank, you have the right to say, well, I got this money on my own. That's a 7 hour. You can now say you got the money on your own if you robbed the bank. Nobody can take the credit. I'm being sarcastic, but you get the point. If you went and got the money as a result of going to war with another country, then Americans can't say they made you rich. How y'all made me rich? I went over to another country and got this money. What you talking about? You ain't made me no success. You let these people razzle and dazzle you like they just got this money out the sky. Even if they selling drugs, they got the money off of you. Okay, how did a drug dealer become rich? From taking money from dirty crackheads. If there was no crackheads, how would he be balling? There is no such thing as a self-made man. If you don't have no crack addicts, how you gonna be balling? How you gonna have weight? What the weight gonna do if you ain't got no crackheads? You got all this weight. You got weight in cocaine, you got weight in weed, you got weight in pills. When I say weight, people don't maybe not understand. I'm talking about now you're going into beyond nickel and diamond. You're talking about ounces and pounds of cocaine. We call that weight. You got weight, but if you don't got no customers, you just sitting with weight. You sitting on weight. And then you sit up and defecate on the whole community after you push off that weight and you re-up and you get more weight and you re-up and you get more weight and you re-up. Now you defecating on everybody. But they the ones made you, the community, the ones made you who you are. They gave you your credibility as good out here. What if the crackheads would have called you a rat? What if they just made it up? What if the crackheads just hated you and just made up, he's a rat, You would have had to fight through all those politics. They made you credible out here. You're not looking at all of that. It could take one bad rat, or not even that, not even going to the streets. What if they went to the police? What if they went to the police and told the police you was a drug dealer? So you wouldn't even made it that far if it was not for credible crackheads. That part too. You a credible drug dealer, but you had to have credible crackheads. A credible crackhead that would not go to the police. That's all about crack. In respect to who they get it from. You would be nothing without those other elements. Elements that you have forgot about. See, God made this where we all are connected. Now, when it comes to his people, it's him. It can be God and his servant. It can be, as you see now. Do I really need anybody? They're not really doing anything. God is doing everything. Because if it was up to them, I would have nothing. Oh, that's good. In my situation, if it was up to them, I would have nothing. So this is all God. That's a 7 hour. Yeah, I don't have none of this because somebody want me to have it. I don't have nothing that they want me to have. Now, you speak for yourself. You among the Americans, they love you, they worship you. Hey, they may give you $1,000, $100,000 if they see you doing bad. So if y'all seen Beyonce out here walking, looking for a place to stay, you think she'll be on the streets? If you seen Beyonce walking down Astoria Boulevard and she said, I have nowhere to go, man, even a Mexican don't even know really nothing about, ain't even really black, don't even really hang out with black people, you know what I mean? They'll say, hold on, we have a place for you to stay. You're Beyonce. But they walk by everybody else. Oh, I know I'm right about it. Beyonce wouldn't spend a day on the streets. Among all you Americans, you don't think somebody's going to pick her up off the streets? I'm just saying, listen, I'm not jealous. If you think that, God knows I'm not. I'm pointing out to you specific facts. I'm not competing with anyone. This isn't my way of competing with someone. I'm showing you specific facts. If you listen closely from the right ears, I don't even know them people personally. I don't know Beyonce personally. I don't know Jay-Z personally. I don't know Kanye West personally. I could know them personally, but I don't. It's possible they're here, but I don't know them personally. I'm just showing you how you are. You give people that have money, you make sure they're going to keep that money. You make sure they're going to keep some position. You have chosen who your darlings are in your community. They go one day on the streets, y'all throwing money out the window. Oh, come on. These dope boys wouldn't throw no money out the window if they seen Beyonce out there. Here, Queen. You throwing out 5,000 stacks. Boom. 10,000 stacks. Keep that. Boom. Oh, you don't think nobody do that? Especially here in New York. You don't think nobody throw money out the streets? Out on the streets for her? Oh, come on, man. Look, you have chosen who you have made your objects of worship. It's not her fault. It's not anybody else's fault. Same thing with Jay-Z. You think he gonna walk around the streets of New York broke? That's forbidden. If he was on the streets, dope boys all around the world, all in 5 boroughs, just handing him weed. Here, man, here's some weed, man. Man, just get off the streets. Here's some Henny, man. Man, look, I don't know what happened to you. Here's some Henny. You need some dope to sell. Listen, here's an ounce. Here's a pound. You need a gun? Here, it's crazy out here. Here. Am I wrong? So listen, I'm showing you who you decided to worship, and it's not their fault. No one, people pay dues, granted, but the community is still, with that still being said, is out of control when they cannot understand the progression of thrones and the significance of people in their community. They can't see it. And so what you have really going on is not the progression of anything. Listen to this closely in America. Really, you don't have the progression of anything. What you have is the sustaining of certain powers. That's a 7 owl. What you have is the progression of certain powers, not the natural progression of thrones. That's been gone a long time ago, don't you think? Well, if it was the natural progression of thrones, then we would have had more black politicians and more black progression now, wouldn't we? So obviously, white racist progression is still in effect. It's still in effect. It's still in effect when you have no true black progression. Oh, because you see some people famous on TV, that's black progression. They don't speak for 80% of the people that still in poverty are still living, are working their butts off to make ends meet. Rich African Americans are 20% of the community here. Would you agree with me or not? A quarter of the African American community, a quarter of them, 20 to 25% are rich people, right? That's what it is. That's what it is. The other 80% to 75% haven't seen more than $250,000. They haven't seen $250,000. Most of the African American community, most of them, 75% to 80 of them, well, yeah. I would say 70% of the African Americans have not had $250,000 in the bank. So how can the people that do have $250,000, how can they speak for the African American experience now? They can talk about their past. They can talk about what they've been through. They can talk about all of that. But that still does not, their experience still does not identify and has never identified the overall community of the African Americans. Now, if most of African Americans, 80%, 60 to 80% of them were seeing more than $250,000, then we could say this is the African American experience. So they can't speak for the African American experience if 80% are not experiencing it. They're not experiencing none of that. They're not experiencing any of that. So while you playing psychological games, all you're showing is who you worship. Well, you wouldn't do this to Jay-Z, would you? You wouldn't do this to Beyonce, would you? Look, gender discrimination goes both ways. It goes both ways. Men need to point out that you wouldn't do this to a woman. Oh yeah, we need to point that out. We need to point that out. Yeah, gender discrimination, age discrimination. I'm gonna do a video on this too. Age discrimination and gender discrimination. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about if you're a certain age, you don't get certain respect. Meanwhile, I'm older than Malcolm X or Martin Luther King Jr. I'm older than both of them. I'm older than Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. And you still ain't gave me my respect. That's age discrimination. Ironically, I'm older than them though. I'm older than both of them, right? But you still treat me like I'm 19. You have age discrimination in your community where young men and women of color are not respected until they got a head full of gray hair. White men get respect at 22 years old. I've seen it. I've seen it myself. White boys who don't deserve no respect, 20 years old, 22 years old, over all these old people, giving all type of respect. I've seen it at jobs. I've seen it. I used to work at the hospital. A 22-year-old dopey boy, might as well say, his mom had a position in the hospital and she put a dopey white 22-year-old boy over all these cleaning, these janitorial black folks who knew how to do the job, and put a dinky white boy over us. And that was because of his mother putting him in that position. The white boy starts getting respect at 18. I'm going to do a video on that. That's a 7 hour. The white boy gets respect at 18. The black man gets respect at 55. Oh, you don't start respecting him till he about 50 something. Well, look how you treated everybody. Man, come on, man. You say you respect money. How come the white people don't respect it? Oh, they don't respect it. You respect it, they don't. Man, half of these white people don't care how much money you make. You still a boy in their eyes. Hey, they got money too, so they not charmed by your money. They're indifferent because you're still black and to them, which means you ain't a man till they decide you are. Till they decide you are. Whenever that time comes, you make them enough money, now you're a man. I'm a man before I make them money. Whether I make them money or not, I'm a man. Listen, that comes back to what I was saying earlier about working. These white slave masters, that mentality is still in your community where they have Jedi mind tricked you to where they make you feel like if you don't work, you ain't a man. See, you got to be doing something for them to be a man in their eyes. You got to be doing something for them. If you making your own money and it ain't got nothing to do with them, you think these racist white people gonna look at you as a man. But you ain't making them no money. They can't benefit off you at all. You think they're gonna esteem you as a man. This is a beautiful message. Oh, when you start making them some money, everybody's a man. And that's a Jedi mind trick too. He don't esteem you as no man. I bet he won't let you be around his children. I bet he won't allow you to be around his wife. Oh yeah, you a man on the job site. Yeah. Well, y'all making money. That's where you a man at. He ain't gonna genuinely embrace you. He ain't gonna genuinely embrace you as like one of his own. So you just a man on the job site, and maybe even the website. You just a man on the website or the job site, buddy. Let's see if they esteem you as a man outside of your position. Let's see if they esteem you as a man outside of your job site. If you are an athlete, let's see if they esteem you as a man in all situations. Oh, they can be careful. They can take you out to eat and act perfect. Let's see how they act when you're around their family. Let's see how they act with time, with the progression of that. And then you get the truth. Yeah, anybody can act cool on a Friday night. Anybody can act cool on a Friday night. Let the black guy meet the family. And let's see if you feel intimidated. Oh yeah, they ain't like that, did they? Let's see if you feel intimidated for him to be around your wife. Huh? where the kids start looking at him more of a hero than they look at you like that. Yeah, then we see if you really esteem him as a man. Because if you did, you wouldn't care nothing about that. Hey, it ain't his fault that his family see you like that. It ain't his fight. It ain't his fault that his wife is giving you the eye, him the eye. It ain't his fault, is it? It ain't his fault. Hey, it ain't my fault your wife looking at me. It ain't my fault that your kids look up to me more than they look up to you. They doing that anyway if I don't come to your house. That's what some of these athletes will say. Hey, your wife think about me and your children look up to me without me even being in your house. So what he got to do? He gotta denounce your manhood. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I know this is still going on because men have egos, and the only way, and if this is still a white racist country, and men still have egos in 2023, you don't think he's doing something to emasculate you or denounce your manhood? He's still doing it. When you got 80% of us still in the hood or living a not well-to-do situation. Not in a well-to-do situation. 80% of us are, right? And by the way, on top of that, we don't all get along either. Oh yeah, I know. A lot of white people don't know that. You should, but you don't. You don't act like you know that. You act like you're simple. Well, if white people and black people killing each other, it's safe to say they might hate each other too, right? Well, if you're killing each other, that's the worst thing you can do. So that means everything else applies. Everything else don't apply when you killing each other. Hate, racism, and everything else in between. Everything applies when you killing somebody. Yeah, you forgot about that part. That's why I told you. Black people killing each other is the elephant in the room. It's the telltale signs of your community in the state of it. It's the signs that you can't hide. It tells us everything we need to know. You worried about racism. You worried about racism. You need to be worried about black on black crime. That's what you need to be worried about. You worried about some wayward racist white man drinking beer down in the cabin in the woods. You worried about what he putting on the internet when you ain't worried about the people that's gangbanging around your neighborhood, killing your aunties and uncles. It don't make sense to me. And that's how you know I'm the one that's supposed to be doing this. You know why? Because I'm addressing the real issues, you idiots. What issues are you addressing? It's progression of the throne. God decided that it's time. When you got all these mediocre people sitting on thrones, not telling you the truth that black on black crime is the worst problem in the country. Well, who's killing each other more than black people? Who's killing each other more than black people? You don't think Malcolm X will be talking about this? You don't think Martin Luther King Jr. will be talking about this? I'm talking about really talking about it like I am. Like he ready to get rid of you for the sake of the better community. Because you're becoming a disgrace to the African American. I'm saying just like I need to say it. You're becoming a disgrace. Listen, man, you thought it was me, it's you. Look all those killings. But yet you talking about you love each other, and yet you talking about a movement. What movement? What movement is you talking about? What movement? Ain't no movement. You know what's moving? Dead bodies to the morgue. And people celebrating and happy about it. Your own people celebrating and happy about it. It's a whole different world. Like I've explained in my other video, did Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X world, and you cannot even say they would be on your side. How you gonna say that? How can you be arrogant enough to say that? Because this is a crisis. I know you've become desensitized to it, but good meaning, real African Americans who are loyal to the first causes of African Americans. They loyal to preserving African life. You don't think they might denounce you? You got to remember, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. did not see all this killing. So how can you speak for their response? I can tell you for sure they wouldn't like it. We can agree on that, right? So they would like it. Like you like it when you listen to black music and you listen to hip hop and they talking about banging up people. Oh yeah, you like that. You think Malcolm X wouldn't like, you think he would have liked it? You think Martin Luther King Jr. would have liked it? So it's safe to say they wouldn't have liked it. Yeah. Now you see you're completely separated from your masters. And I'm not trying to. I'm showing you by culture you are. And you don't even know if they would accept you right now. Well, it's worse to kill black people and you're black, so you might be double rejected. You thought you would be unconditionally accepted. Yeah, that's what you thought. You thought you would be unconditionally accepted. Well, you're newsflash, reality check. You're not the only Africans in the world. I'm just saying. You're not the only Africans in the world. You don't speak for all Africans. You don't speak for Ethiopians. Boom. You don't speak for all Africans. You don't speak for the Nigerians. How you speak for them? They don't live your same experience. You speak for Americans, just as you should, killing black people. That's what Americans been doing from the beginning. You speaking for Americans. That's what you're doing. Oh, you don't want to be real about it. That's what I'm saying. The person that it would be a leader now, like a Malcolm X and an MLK, would be addressing the problems. That's how you know none of them ain't. You want me to tell you how you know? Because the first thing God gonna have you do is address this problem. Oh, he gonna have you ignore this? God Almighty gonna have you ignore this and try to be wise about it and try to be on the hush about it. And how can you? No. You've been quiet too long. See, what you understand is, what some of y'all don't understand is, the method of the enemy is to shut you down and to shut you up. You think that's the way to do it. I know you think I'm stupid, don't you? I know exactly how you think. You think I'm stupid for talking so much. I ain't stupid. I'm saying exactly what needs to be said, exactly like the leaders in the past did it. And look at my situation now. Because God empowers the man that speaks. He don't empower no cowards. Why should God give you the power? Why should God put the equipment in you? Why should God equip you when you're a coward? That's why you're wondering how I'm getting it done. You know why? Because as soon as I made the decision to be brave, God put everything on my back. Okay, here's this weapon. Here's this protection. Here's these angels. Why should God send you angels to get something done that you ain't getting done? The help comes when you speak. That's what the white race masters didn't tell you. That's what these black folks who think they know what they're doing didn't tell you. Oh, the power comes when you speak. When God see, oh, my son is brave. Oh, I got to do something. I got to send this and that. He talking. He doing something. I got to send that. I got to send this. It's time. It's time again. It's time for deliverance again. I got to do this. I got to do that. Why would he be doing that with you? Ask yourself. You're not saying anything because you go by that old school stuff, talking about we know what we don't want to be involved. Yeah, you know what got you like that? Racist white methods of beating you into submission. Well, why wouldn't you be involved? If you thought you could win, you've been beaten into submission. That's exactly what it is. And black people got you like that too. Well, you know, I don't want to see nothing happen to you. You're a good brother. I don't want to see nothing happen to you. You should be willing to die than to live like this. You living emasculated. You living like as if you're a woman. While you trying to get on trannies and everything, how you a man when you submitted to the American government defecating on your people all the time? How you feel like a man when you constantly submitted to that? I don't see how you can feel that way. You know how I feel like a man? Because I'm standing up and saying what needs to be said. That sets me free from it. Some would say you ain't no different than a tranny. Well, you submitted to another man. You submitted to many men, and I'm not. Even with the lifestyle I've lived in the past, I would never submit to no Americans that do what they do. You do. But yeah, you walk around here like you the man. Because everybody became silent and you became the man in your own imaginary world. In the real world, where the white man is on top of you and racism is still on top of you, and there's still racist agendas that some white people ain't talking about, they just trying to fix it. Oh, they ain't gonna tell you about it because you're gonna get scared. You're gonna get alert. Oh, they trying to fix some things right now. Oh, okay. Use your brain. Use your brain. They're fixing things. They're trying to fix things right now. White Americans that mean well are going to war with racist white Americans. They're not going to tell you that because it will alert everybody. Like there's a race war going on. Like somebody's being held back from harming you. Like you need to go arm yourself and go to war with them. They ain't going to tell you that, but use common sense. How are they keeping it at bay? Oh, you just think they scared of you when they way more armed than you and way more trained than you. These racist white militias are way more trained than these so-called gangsters and thugs. Okay, you go to a shooting range, but you're not running and jumping up hills like they are. You smoke a pack of cigarettes a day. These guys are running up hills and going down hills and running through water shooting guns. You ain't doing that. You ain't got no way to do it. How you doing that? I'm talking about to the average citizen. How are you running through water and jumping up hills and going through real-time training? You ain't going through no real-time training. You going to shooting ranges, sitting targets. That's what you doing. That's not enough. You need to be able to have an environment where you're interacting with real terrain, shooting targets. These white racist militias are doing that. And you think they're scared of that hip hop stuff. Man, you're sadly mistaken. They're not scared of that. You're scared of that. You're scared of each other. That's why you're not telling the truth now. You're scared of each other. They're not scared of you. They're not scared of you. If I'm armed, why would I be scared of you? I'm just saying. Think about it. As a matter of fact, they become more arrogant and cocky. Everybody know that anybody with a gun it becomes arrogant and cocky. That's how you can tell by somebody's confidence. You can tell by somebody's confidence if they got weapons. Well, hey, I guess I learned a thing or few. I guess I learned a thing or two. People become arrogant and cocky. You know they armed. They talking too much. They arrogant. They too arrogant. They got a gun. That's how you know. For all you who think y'all got street wisdom. Yeah, you can't even tell when somebody got a gun, can you? Cops know. That's why they pull people over. See you walk on you cocky, you arrogant. They know you got a gun. They know you got something because of how you walking. Oh, you don't think they think about that? You don't think they have some science information on you that they use against you? That's why they be pulling people over. That's why they be jacking people up against the wall, searching people, because they see your arrogance, they see your cockiness. And some of y'all got it, and you ain't got not even a blade on you. And that's why you're being roughed up and everything. These white boys are trained and ready while you out here with your chest out with arrogance and you can barely shoot guns. You can barely start running up and down the streets without huffing and puffing. I tell you one thing about me. I don't claim to be trained with every type of gun. I don't claim that. But I tell you one thing. I'm physically equipped. I will shoot guns and I'm physically equipped, which means I can run for miles and miles. I can walk for miles and miles, and half of y'all can't. You think this war is gonna be easy as you just stepping outside and shooting everybody? You think it's gonna be that easy? You may have to run for 10 blocks, 5 blocks to get to safety. And half of y'all can't even do that, man. You can't. You can't do it. You can't do it. That's what I'm saying. And you think you're ready for a war. Not in my eyes and not in a lot of people's eyes. The main thing that need to be addressed, man, is the fact that you have to progress. This is another part of it. You have to progress the throne. Any of these singers and rappers telling you about this? They talking about guns, but they ain't telling you how to survive and where you slipping at, are they? They ain't telling you about where you're slipping when you can't even run and jog to safety and fight your way to safety with gunfights. They think they talk to you as if you're supposed to stand there or you're supposed to drive around. What happens if you wreck your car and everybody got to get out the car and you got to start shooting your way and you in the enemy's neighborhood? You're going to have to run for 10 blocks to get to safety. And y'all ain't even ready for that. So you will be dead. And that's the end of it. And it's gonna be so sad, man. Everybody got the heart, but they ain't got the skills. It's one thing to have the heart to shoot people, but it's another thing to have the skills to survive. And I'm talking about war. I'm not talking about in which every man should be equipped equipped concerning. Listen, your American government and many of your communities, they don't want you to be equipped for war. They don't feel like it's necessary. How it ain't necessary? Well, no civilian should really have a reason to be a full-blown warrior. Something's wrong with that. Well, something's wrong with your society. Something's wrong with these crazy people pushing people on trains. See, I have real solutions. You know what my solution to that is? You get 20 years or better for pushing people on the trains. That's how you know I'm the progression of the throne. Because you know why? Because I'm giving you real solutions. What are the solutions are they giving you that's progressing your community? You need to give anybody that push people on trains 20 years. That black dude that pushed that Asian woman and she's still dead now, just in case you got a cartoon brain. She's still dead now in the grave now. Some of y'all can't even think that far. Somebody dies and that's the end of it. You go to something else. She's still in the grave. Yeah, that's a wake-up call, ain't it? Now you realize dead people that's in the grave. You got a cartoon brain. You can't even think about dead people in the grave. That'll make you wake up. Got a black man that pushed that woman, a senseless killing, pushed that woman on the train, onto the train tracks, and hit by a train. She died like that. Innocent woman. And this man is not even going to get 20 years. I guarantee you he'll do 5 to 8 years, be on parole for probably another 5 to 10 years, and that'll be the end of it. So in all actuality, he only did 5 or 8 years for taking that woman's life like that. Here in New York, that happened. A black guy pushed this Asian woman on the train tracks. Didn't hear any black people really talk about this, did we? Now, had it been an Asian man pushing a black woman, you wouldn't heard the last. You couldn't. They'd still be talking about it. Oh, I'm wrong. You know what you have a problem with doing? Accepting the shame that comes with your tribe. You have to accept it. You put trophy. You make it, all the good people in your community trophies. You give them awards for good actors and this and that. You have the BT awards and all of this. You congratulate your good people, the ones that make you look good, but you don't correct the ones that make you look bad. You don't correct them properly. You don't chastise them properly, so the foolishness continues on. No one has an example of you chastising them. None of your celebrities do the chastising, so the people that's looking around and watching and about to do the same thing, they don't see you correcting nobody. Therefore, they don't change. That man, black guy, pushed that Asian woman, a docile woman. Asian people are just good, humble people. The women are extra docile, more docile than a white woman, more docile than a black woman by far. And this black guy pushed this docile woman, female, onto the train tracks, right? And she died like that. And she was an advocate for homeless people being able to sleep in the train, in the subway stations, just so they could stay warm in the wintertime or during cold times. He didn't know she was advocating for that. And she shelled out thousands of dollars for homeless cause. And yet he pushed that woman on the train track. So you never know who you're hurting. That man had no idea she was doing that. And if he did, he probably wouldn't have did it. He might have didn't like her. He might have did some other crazy stuff, but he wouldn't have done that. Yeah, now he knows. She was advocating for people in your situation to be able to get off the streets and be able to sleep in a warm subway station, which you don't even belong. You have no right to be there. And the only way your American community is going to change that, here's the progression of the throne. Because they ain't progressing concerning this situation. How are they progressing, giving you extra, giving them better sentences? No, they're not. The progression of the throne is 20 years plus for people that push people on train tracks here in America. You do that, you're getting 20 years. No questions asked, no chance of parole. We don't want to see you for 20 years. Put it that way. Well, anybody want to see them in the next 5 years? You want to see them eat down at Burger King in the next 5 years in front of your children after they done put somebody on the train? You want to see a whole generation come and get out the way of harm's way where the generation that comes can defend themselves. So 20 years, by the time somebody's 20 years old, they can defend themselves. Now you got a whole other generation that can defend themselves against you. That's about right. Boom. That's a 7 out. Same thing for these gang stalkers. Same thing. You want some gang stalkers around your children eating at Burger King? They're not even worthy to eat among your people for the evil that they do. They can justify it all they want. But in reality, would you want some gang stalkers around your children? No, you would not. No, you would not. They're another group of people. 20 years or plus. 20 years plus. Want you around my children and my son. Why? I don't want nothing that crazy around my kids. Maybe to rub off. Maybe, some evil in the air. I don't know. I don't want nothing around my kid like that. Out here gang stalking like you a predator. You ain't no predator. Not when you messing with a soldier. You are not a predator. You think you one. When you messing with a lion, you about to be devoured either way it go. Either way it go, buddy. You messing with the kingdom of God. The Lion of the tribe of Judah is going to devour your community. Keep playing with us. But that's another group of people. 20 years or better, I'm getting rid of you. I'm giving you 20 years in prison. You gang stalk people, you think life is a video game like you Super Mario or something? I put you in jail for 20 years. You won't be eating mushrooms. You'll be getting mushrooms in your butt. You'll be getting a big mushroom in your butt, buddy. That's what you have. You won't be eating mushrooms like Mario do. You'll be getting one up the butt. Drum, drum, drum. That's what you'll be getting, big baby. Playtime is over. I'm progression of the throne. These police can't even tell you. They talking about better. They'll say tougher laws and all that tougher crime. That's all they can say. But they're not giving you real solutions you can walk away with, right? It's just vague information. All of them, legal system, all of them. Listen to all of them. All of it's vague. Listen to the even the pro-black people. All they talk about is vague. They're not giving you no real specific information like teachers do. That's what teachers do. I break it down. 20 years plus. That's what they get. They get 20 years. You shoot somebody and you a gangbanger and you shoot through some walls and you do a drive-by, you do a 187 and you can't hit your target and you hit through walls and you kill kids, you getting 20 years plus, buddy. You getting 20 years off tops. I'm putting you in jail for 20 years with no questions asked. You can forget about the next 20 years. If you took a child's life, you're getting 20 years. Take some of your life like you took that child's life. We take some of your life then. You should be glad you ain't going to get killed. Get the death penalty for that. You should be glad. Count your lucky stars that that's not the situation. I'll give you 20 years. Because by the time you get 20 years, your youth is gone. If you was 20 years old and you did that, you coming out at 40 years old. All your 20s and all your 30s where you could have got married, all that's gone. If you go into jail at 40 years old, the last good 20 years of your life is gone. From 40 to 60, yep, that's the last time to really be a young man. You see how it works? That specific number has to be what it is. And that's how you know I'm progressive concerning the throne. Ain't nobody else telling you that, are they? So that means I am up to progress it. I am up to progress your community. Why these other people are not? They telling you, I don't know if it's going to get better. I don't know how it's going to get better. I know how it's going to get better. 20 years plus. That's how it's going to get better. Cops didn't tell you this, did they? They got all the solutions in the world. All these people, the politicians, didn't tell you this, did they? I'm telling you what it's going to take. 20 years plus in prison, no chance of parole. That's how you're going to change it. It'll change ghettos in every suburban place in this country overnight. Guaranteed. You tell them they're going to get 20 years in jail, it changed the whole crime psychological in the crime world. And all these petty people too, all these street punks. 20 years plus, you're getting in prison with no chance of parole. That's the progression.